Video on circles is about circles that have axes as tangents. Let's start with a simple example. So in this example, I have a circle with a centre at 2, 4, and which has the y-axis as a tangent, and I want to find its equation. So if I have the centre, all I really need to get is the radius. And let's make just a little note about geometry before we go any further, which is that if I have a circle with a tangent, then if I draw a radius to the point of tangency, then the radius and the tangent are perpendicular. We've mentioned this before, but it's worth reiterating. Notice, of course, that the y-axis is a vertical line. So on the basis of this rule, if I draw in a radius joining the centre to the tangent, that means they must be perpendicular, and this radius is horizontal. It's also a distance of 2 from the axis, because the x value in the point is 2. So now I have everything that I need to know. I've got the centre and I've got the radius. I can find the equation really easily. I'll use this formula from page 19 in the log tables, and do have your log tables to hand throughout all of these videos on the circle. I'll label the values in my centre h and k, and of course r stands for radius. And when I substitute that in, I get x minus 2 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 2 squared, and all I have to do to just tidy this up is just square the 2. You only need to do further multiplication if it actually requires you to do that in the question, and that's not the case here. Okay, so here's a question for you. So in this case, we've got a circle with centre 5, 3. This time the x-axis is a tangent, and we want to find the equation of the circle. So pause the video here and take a moment to see if you can figure out the answer, and then play and see if you're correct. So again, I'll begin by drawing in a sensible radius. And of course, I know that the radius and the tangent must meet at right angles. And the x-axis here is horizontal, so this means that this radius that I've drawn in must be vertical. So if I can figure out the distance vertically, then I'll know the radius. Well, looking at the y value in the point, it tells me that the point 5, 3 is 3 units above the x-axis. So straight away I have my radius. And now that I have that, I've got all the info that I need to find the equation of the circle. I'll note the formula, I'll label the point, and I'll label the radius. Then I'll substitute in, and finally I'll tidy up. So there's my equation, x minus 5 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 9. It's useful to note that when the x-axis is a tangent and the centre of the circle is being called minus g minus f, that the radius of the circle is equal to the absolute value of minus f. And in the other case, where the y-axis is a tangent and the centre is minus g minus f, the radius is equal to the absolute value of minus g. More simply put, if the x-axis is a tangent, then the radius is the positive version of the y part of the centre point. And when the y-axis is a tangent, the radius is the positive version of the x part of the centre point. Sometimes, like in the questions and examples above, those values are already positive, so we literally just pick the number out and choose it as the radius. But if the number in that position happened to be a negative, I'd just change it into a positive and use it as the radius anyway. So let's have a look at a second example. This time I've got a circle with a centre minus 3, 2, and the y-axis is a tangent. And again, we want to find its equation. So again, I'll start by drawing a line from the centre to the axis. And again, I know that these two lines are perpendicular. So remember that we said that if the y-axis is a tangent, then the radius is the positive version of the x part of the centre point. So the radius is the absolute value of minus 3, or just 3. And this makes sense because if you think about it, the point minus 3, 2 is 3 spaces out in this direction from the y-axis, because I have to go 3 spaces to the left to get to minus 3 on the x-axis. So just like before now, I've got my centre, I've got my radius, into the formula it goes, and we'll make the equation of the circle. Pause the video here yourself while you do that, and then play and see if you're correct. So I'll sub in my values, and I'll get x plus 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 9. So here's a question for you, and this time I won't draw the diagram. I'll just give you the information and you draw the sketch yourself before you begin. So the centre is minus 2 minus 2, the x-axis is a tangent, and you want to find the circle's equation. So pause the video here now, draw a sketch, it's good to be in that habit, and then see can you figure out the equation of the circle. Okay, so I've got a circle. I don't need to be hugely fussed about accuracy here. It's about kind of getting the sense of the image more than anything else. So there's my centre, sorry, my circle I should say. There's my centre minus 2 minus 2. The x-axis is a tangent. And we need to find radius now in order to find the circle's equation. So again, we'll draw in that radius. And then of course, because the x-axis is a tangent, the radius is the positive version of the y part of the centre point. So in this case, the radius will be the absolute value of -2, which is just 2. I'll label my centre, I'll note my formula, and I'll substitute in, and I'll just finish up by just squaring that 2 at the end. And just before we finish this video, I'd like you to go back and have a look at the question and the diagram and see, can you make any other observations about any other tangents that this particular circle might have? So pause the video here for a second while you have a think about that, and then play and see if you were right. So we noted that the radius was a length of 2, and so this point is 2 away from the x-axis. But it's also, you might notice, 2 away from the y-axis, because the x value is -2. So the y-axis is also a tangent to this particular circle. And we'll just finish this video up by noting that if both axes are tangents, then given a centre of -g minus f, the absolute value of -g will be equal to the absolute value of -f.